y'all, this is E-Man Booze. Big old mystery here in Maryland. We can't figure out if bourbon whiskey was ever produced in the great state of Maryland. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Last week though, I spent so much time on the internet. I called the Maryland Historical Society. I talked to an old friend of mine who knows a lot about the history of spirits in Maryland. We couldn't come up with any evidence showing that bourbon whiskey was ever made here. Here's what we did find. Let me come around here and show you some suspects. Alright now. So, we did find this bourbon called Old Setter. Straight bourbon whiskey, 80 proof. Bottled by Majestic Distilling Company, Lansdowne, Maryland. Wait a minute. Bottled by. What does this say on the back of the label? Distilled in Kentucky. Hell, that ain't no Maryland-made bourbon. What about this one? This is the only other spirit we could find that was labeled as bourbon whiskey from Maryland. Milford Springs. Bottled for the Sherwood Distilling Company, Westminster, Maryland. Bottled for? That ain't Maryland bourbon. What's all this mean? Well, what it means is that maybe Twin Valley Distillers out of Rockville, Maryland is the first distillery in the great state to make bourbon whiskey. So we're going to roll with that for right now until someone proves us differently. We're going to get some in a glass. We're going to talk about it now. Alright, so a couple of weeks ago, the owner of Twin Valley Distillers, Edgardo Zuniga, and I had the opportunity to speak at the Humidor Cigar Shop in Cockeysville, Maryland, and the fine audience had a chance to taste many of Edgardo's spirits, including this here bourbon, and his rum and his vodka. And they got to listen to my old butt talk about how craft spirits are made. They were very receptive. And you know, it's funny because every time you talk about craft spirits, people seem to be engaged because they want something that tastes different than the mainstream stuff. And that's why old E-Man keeps making all these here reviews for you. Alright, now, how is this spirit made? Pretty simple. Edgardo gets a mash together of corn, unmalted barley, and rye. It's 80% corn, other 20% is unmalted barley, and rye. Get it all mixed together and fermented. It comes out at about 8.5% alcohol by volume as a distiller's beer before it's twice distilled in his still. Now the first time it's distilled to maybe something about 80 proof or 40% alcohol by volume. The second distillation comes off the still averaging around 120 proof or 60% alcohol by volume. It's thrown into small 5-gallon new charred oak cask, because that's a requirement to be labeled as bourbon whiskey, and they sit in that cask for a number of months. And this is the small cask barrel series. So this is a single cask barrel series. So this comes from just one small 5-gallon charred oak barrel, and this one here aged for 3 months. So after he takes it out of the barrel, you know, went in there about 120 proof, he cut it down with some water down to 90 proof, and it goes into the bottle. Alright, so that's how the spirit's made, and we're going to nose up now. We're going to taste it. We're going to tell her all. We're going to tell you about how she tastes, actually. Let's get up on the nose here. Here's what I like, and here's what I find fascinating. I'm getting this fresh, buttery, creamy corn note here. Different, way different than the mainstream bourbons out there on the market. And I'm picking up some real nice caramel tones. Little bright citrus notes, something like lemon peel. And a slight herbaceousness. Something remind me of thyme. And I think Edgardo probably got about 4 or 5 minutes worth of thyme in this here spirit. Let's taste her. Let's put her up on the palate. There it is. The creamy corn taste. I'm loving it. Custardy. Remind me a little bit of creme brulee now here. I'm picking up a little fruit that I didn't pick up in the aroma. Remind me a little bit of cherry. I get that herbaceousness, the thyme we was talking about, and even a hint of maybe anise or fennel. And I'm getting a cinnamon tone in here. Not a lot of pepper notes, and not a lot of oaky wood notes. The oak's in here. It's very subtle. And actually, because it's not so over oak like a lot of small craft spirits are, it's able to put out more of the fruitiness of the grains. And that's what I really am mesmerized by. The fruitiness of the grains. It's unlike any bourbon I've ever had. It's charming. It's enchanting. I'm loving this. And you know what? Edgardo, being the chef that he is, another 6 months from now, he'll have another rendition of this bourbon here, and it'll be even better because that's what Edgardo do. He knows he's a master of flavors. And you got to keep your eyes on this man because he's doing for craft something really special here in Maryland. Check him out on the internet. Twin Valley Distillers. Twin Valley Distillers? Yeah, twinvalleydistillers.com. Check me out on the internet. I'm E-Man Booze. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I write the Distillery of the Month column for MainStreetDistilleries.com. When in Maryland, make sure you check out Twin Valley Distillers. They're doing remarkable things. Bye, you all.